Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, muli muli wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. And please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, wherever you get your podcasts. Our guest today is Leslie Wall. Our friend is joining us again today to celebrate a brand new anthology from the Catholic Teen Authors Group. Before we invite Leslie back into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by A is for Always, an adoption alphabet. A beautiful picture book by our friend Linda Cutting. A is for Always, with your hand in mind. Adoption's a gift that will last for all time. With gentle rhymes and lovely illustrations, A's for Always celebrates the joy and love of adoption from A to Z. With B for birth parents, Q for questions, and U for understanding, it frames challenging aspects of adoption in a way children can understand. Best of all, each page shows a different adoptive family of cuddly animals welcoming and cherishing a new child. This book is perfect for any adopted family. It's perfect for a classroom. It's perfect for your family library. Get your copy today. A is for Always, an adoption alphabet, written by our friend Linda Cutting. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by the Chuckle Wobbles, a beautiful, fun book by Prue McDonald. The Chuckle Wobbles is an amazing children's book with an inspiring, positive message. Prue McDonald teaches kids how to cultivate moments of happiness that we may access when we're feeling stressed or depressed. The book follows the Chuckle Wobbles, a cheery species that live on the planet Mirth, which is spinning in dimensional space. They have an upbeat, bubbly personality, and they love to dance. They have the ability to enter a book called Portals to Other Planets and travel to unhappy planets in order to lift the spirits of the people who live there. It really is a wonderful, fun book that has some wonderful lessons for kids. It's a delightful fantasy story for young readers that follows two happy creatures with unique personalities on an illuminating journey and has excellent artwork and a heartwarming message. Exploring the loving relationship between people from two different planets, this beautifully designed picture book is certain to become a bedtime favorite. Get your copy today, The Chuckle Wobbles by Prue McDonald. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Colorado. Our guest is returning to the show. She has been on the podcast many, many times. She's a great friend of the show. Please welcome back Leslie Wall. Hey, Leslie, how are you?
I'm doing so great. Thank you so much for having me on again.
I'm delighted to have you on. Leslie has been here to celebrate her young adult titles. She's been here to celebrate her picture book. She's been a big part of the Catholic Teen Authors original stories that have been created for the past 3 Christmases. And you're back today to celebrate a brand new anthology from the Catholic Teen Authors Group. Is that right?
That's right. We have our 4th anthology coming out just in time for Lent.
Tell us, before we go any further, some people might be out there thinking, Catholic Teen Authors, what is this, like a new order, like the Benedictines and the Jesuits?
Yeah. So it's CatholicTeenBooks.com is our website, and we're 16 different authors who all happen to write fiction for Catholic teens. And so we kind of And it doesn't have to be Catholic, Christian, any kind of faith-based, just clean fiction. Anybody, there's lots of choices on there. But we kind of all work together so that we can have one place where families can find these kind of books. And we help each other market books, and we have all kinds of things on our website to make it easy for families to find what they're looking for. But we've had a lot of fun over the years. Some of us will join together to write these anthologies. So an anthology is a collection of short stories. And we are just about to launch our fourth one, Ashes, Visible and Invisible is the title.
Wow. And when we say Catholic teen books, your books aren't proselytizing. You're not, going out and trying to convert the world.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, we just all write books that have some faith interspersed in it, but have good values. And they're exciting adventures. Like I like to write mystery adventures. And we have some authors who write about saints. We have some who just have historic fiction. We have a few who write futuristic stories. So they're fun stories that kids will really enjoy the storyline and enjoy and want to read. But they also, reflect values that parents will appreciate. And so it's a great source with so many different books that people can find new titles for their kids and feel good about them.
One of the things that I hear from parents is a kind of bemoan, there's no great media out there for kids. The music is vulgar and the movies are inappropriate and the social media and the books. And there are a lot of things that some parents will find objectionable and not want their kids to read, but it's not too hard to find music and movies and books that share your values. You just have to look a little bit for them. Yeah. You do have to do a bit of search for it, and that's why we kind of joined forces to offer one place where people can find a lot of different choices. And even within, our books, because we have books available from older elementary all the way through like college age. And so obviously something that is appropriate for, someone in their late teens might not be right for a young teen. And so we actually even also have parental guidelines on the site so people can really see what's exactly in it, if there's any kind of violence, if, there's any kind of, the different topics of whatever is in the book so that they can really know and feel comfortable with them. But yeah, it's a bit harder. I started writing because I was searching for books for my own children, and now they're grown, and it has only gotten harder and harder to go to the store, to the bookstore, and try to find something that you feel comfortable with. There always seems to be things that they're pushing different agendas and whatnot anymore, and so it's a difficult time. But hopefully, our site will offer a little bit of ease in that. Yeah. So, Ashes, Visible and Invisible, that is for somebody who grew up Catholic as I did and who still practices the faith. That's a very Catholic title, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we were trying to figure out what to do. So Lent, I did not grow up Catholic in the Catholic Church, and so Lent wasn't really something I really thought much about. It was about Easter. But as I grew in my faith, and so it's such a beautiful liturgical time, and a time when we should be like focusing on what Christ really did for us, and the sacrifice he made and so forth. And sadly, sometimes, especially for teens, it becomes more of, what do I have to give up for 40 days or whatever. So we thought it'd be neat to have a collection of stories that will help teens kind of really think about their faith, the generosity, the sacrifice, and so forth in their own lives that they might be able to do. And hopefully that helps them think of Lent and Jesus' sacrifice in kind of a different way for them as they go through this season. And each of the stories, there's 10 stories, so there's 10 authors that join together for this one. And after each story are a few discussion questions, which makes it great for a classroom, for even a family reading them together and bringing up some topics to chat about. I know you and I have talked about that before, how reading a book together is just such a great way, especially when you have teens who don't really want to chat too much about things, but through fictional characters and stories is such a good way to bring things up. So we added those this time, and it's just really exciting about this group of authors and these stories.
Well, I want to get into the stories more and also find out who the other authors are involved with the project. But you brought up a little bit about Lent, and Lent is that 40 days leading up to Easter. And again, when I was growing up, it was always, what are you going to give up? And you can't eat meat on Fridays. But so people wouldn't eat meat on Fridays, but they'd go on, they'd have a big lobster dinner or salmon dinner, and not quite what we're talking about here. And I really like the fact that I think Pope Francis has done a lot for this, but also there's just been more of a movement to, sure, make a sacrifice, give up something, but it's also really important to do something, to add something. So in this 40 days, not, giving up chocolate, maybe that's, okay, but maybe we go out and we find some people who can use our help and our support, and we really focus on doing that service during these 40 days.
Yes, I totally agree. And that is such a good thing. It does seem to be a kind of a movement that way to add more. And I like to, do a little bit more studying, but it's like, what can I do to help others and so forth? And it's setting it in a different way and hopefully making us think about what really should be thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Leslie, I don't know if I ever told you the story. I loved when my kids were younger talking about the faith, and both of my kids had very different kind of perspectives on faith. And my son was one of these kids where whatever he heard from the youth minister or the priest was, okay, that's, just follow that and not question that at all. And my daughter was more of a questioning, why are we doing this kind of person? And I remember after one Ash Wednesday, we went and we heard the gospel, and the gospel said, when you pray by yourself, and when you're fasting, clean yourself up. Don't let anybody know you're fasting. Don't let anybody know that you're praying. And then we all got up and went up and got this big smudge of ash on our forehead. And my daughter came home and she said, wait a minute. The gospel said the opposite. Why are we doing this? And it gave us a chance to sit down, and I didn't have the answer for that. So I actually called into a Catholic radio show and said, what's this all about? And we got the reason behind it. But my point is that I just love being able to talk about our faith and our traditions with our kids and give them a chance to say, why are we doing it this way?
Yeah, it's funny that this seems to people have kind of gone away from that and, let the youth group and the teachers discuss these things, but it really should be a family, journey, I think. Whenever we've gone on trips that had special pilgrimage type of things or something like that where we have to discuss as a family, it always kind of draws us closer. So It's really a special thing too to focus on for your family.
Yeah. So let's talk about the family of authors that are putting together Ashes, Visible and Invisible.
Yeah. So one of the things I just love about these anthologies is it really gives readers a chance to check out different authors, styles, and so forth. So that's kind of nice. So this time, this is our biggest group. There's 10 authors, as I said. So myself, Cynthia Toney, Marie Kaiser, Carolyn Asphalt, Amanda Lauer, Ellen Gable, Corinna Turner, Toni Kolenc, T.M. Gowett, and Teresa Linden. And the stories are all very different. We have a couple that are set in the future. So like Marie has one that's out in outer space. So that's really cool. And Corinna Turner, she's bringing her futuristic dinosaur stories to this one, which is such a fun group of stories she has in that series. And then we have a couple that are historical. Teresa Linden's is actually set close to around Jesus's time. So that gives a whole different, perspective of the time and Lent. And Amanda Lauer has a story of like a time travel. So a modern teen who's back in Scotland, like in the 1600s, I think it is. So we have all kinds of different ranges of. Mine is, as usual, a contemporary story. And so, we just have so many different ones that should, you can find something that most people will enjoy, I think.
Yeah. I wonder what it would be like celebrating Mass on a spaceship or on Mars. Just the idea, I think that would be so much fun to sit down and imagine with our kids as we're reading that story. Just like, so what's our faith going to look like in the future? We'll still believe in Jesus and the Trinity, but maybe the way that we celebrate Mass is going to be a little bit different because of we're on the moon and there's no gravity.
Yeah, I know. All those kind of things are just so fun, and you can really see how you could spark your kids' thoughts and ideas and imagination as you're discussing all these, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. When you're putting together an anthology like this, do you all kind of get together like after Easter 2022 and say, okay, gang, we're going to pull together, we're going to have this book, and is there one of you leading the charge, kind of being the, okay, we have a deadline here, let's get this in?
Yeah, it is an interesting process, but since this is our fourth one, we kind of have it down, what seems to work. But yeah, you need them done quite a bit ahead of time. We've been thinking about a Lenten one for a little while, but weren't quite sure how to put it all together. But we kind of just, a few people were kind of in charge and set out the date of writing these stories. And we kind of left it open to see, let their imaginations kind of go, and just knowing that it had to have a Lent theme of some sort. And, whether it's just the theme of a sacrifice or actually happening during that time. And it's always amazing how it all comes together. Now, personally, this past year has been a difficult one. I actually lost both my parents this past year, but when I was writing the story way back in the spring of last year, my father was really sick and I just couldn't come up with any ideas. I was not having any luck, not feeling creative at all. And Corinna Turner, said, why don't you use, what you're going through, the difficulties, and kind of put it in your story somehow. And so I did that. And actually, the story's about teen, but she has an interaction with an elder gentleman who's actually my father, who was very sick at the time. And so I was able to make him a character in my book, which was such a fun thing. And I was able to read it to him before he passed away. So that was neat. And then the teen I used is actually going to have her own book is coming out in June. So I have a lot of fun connections with this story that make it really special.
What a beautiful gift to be able to write a character based on your dad and then to share it with him before he goes back to heaven. Yeah.
And he was always one of my biggest fans, always telling people all about my books and reading them as soon as they came out. So it was really a nice thing to be able to do. But I'm sure all the authors also have special stories of their own with their, with the stories they wrote. And in the back at the end of each story, people kind of write if the characters are ones that are in their other books or, why they decided to use that specific storyline. So it's kind of special way to get to know the different authors as well as all their characters.
Yeah. It's kind of like what happens when someone gets married and they go and they try all the different food the caterer has to offer for the wedding.
Yeah, it's true. That's what, like I said, it's a great way to find other authors or, styles. You might be like, oh, those were interesting, but I really like this space age one or whatever. And so then you can check out, that author's other books and so forth. So it's kind of a great little taste without having to purchase a whole bunch of books.
Yeah. And, you were talking earlier about parents, how difficult it is to find books that we want our kids to read. And this sounds like a great way to do that. You can discover that, oh, my kid really likes this author who writes about this kind of subject, and I can go and find more of that author's books and more, and speak to my local Christian bookstore, Catholic bookstore person and say, what are the other authors who write in the same kind of style?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she said it's difficult to find different ones, different authors. And you kind of do a Google search or whatever, but not everything comes up, So it's always a trick to do that. And I found like some places might have better Catholic bookstores. In Denver, there's not too many. And the few they have, they don't really carry fiction books, which makes it difficult, especially teen fiction. So that's why it's a great place on our site to find places, but there's actually also on Facebook, Books for Catholic Teens. A lot of different authors that aren't even on our site are posting there all the time. So that's another great resource for people to find these books.
Wonderful. Leslie, from a writer's point of view, is it really challenging for you to go from writing, telling a story in novel form where you have unlimited number of words to then try to tell a story, within the short story limitations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't get as in depth, of course, but I've enjoyed it because usually these short stories I've included in the anthologies are some of my previous characters, or in this case, a future character. And so you're able to kind of dive a little bit deeper into one little section of their life, which is kind of fun for me. I enjoy that part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Really, really neat. And we've had many of the authors that are part of this anthology on the podcast talking about their own books. And certainly many of them have been part of the original short stories that you folks have created for us, which are just so much fun. I'm just curious, before you go, who came up with the title Ashes, Invisible, Visible and Invisible? And was there a particular reason for selecting that title?
I'm not sure if I remember exactly who came up with it. We kind of were floating different ideas around. One was like sacrifice and cross, we're trying to think of Lent themes, and Ashes just kind of had a different, feel to it, and everyone kind of just thought that was a great one, and so we stuck with that. Yeah. It might be a little more confusing to some people who aren't, used to Ashes being part of our Lenten at Ash Wednesday, but hopefully they'll be intrigued by the cover and dive deeper and find out more about it.
Yeah. Well, if people want to dive deeper and find out more about you, where can they go?
Sure. So my website is lesliewall.com. My name's spelled a little different, but I'm sure you'll have it in the link. Or catholicteenbooks.com. And if you click who we are, all of the authors are listed with links to their websites and all their books that they have there. So, yeah, I encourage people to come check out the Catholic Teen Books because we have so many. Every month in our newsletter, we're giving away a book. We have all kinds of book packs, book clubs in a box, all kinds of different things that might be appealing to families or schools even.
Yeah, wow. We've had a really great time speaking to the author of, one of the authors of Ashes, Visible and Invisible, a great anthology from our friends at CatholicTeenBooks.com. Our guest has been Leslie Wall. Hey, Leslie, thanks so much for being back with us.
Oh, thanks again for having me and being such a supporter of us.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Nancy Bourdain. Nancy will be here. I hope you'll be here too. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we'll start by thanking our guest, Leslie Wall. Please be sure to check out the latest anthology from our friends at the Catholic Teen Authors Group. Also want to thank our sponsors, Prue McDonald. Please be sure to check out the Chuckle Wobbles. We also want to thank Linda Cutting. Please be sure to check out her absolutely beautiful book, A is for Always, an Adoption Alphabet. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Will Cheever, Jordan Saley, Stephanie Davila, Cassandra Masonet. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank my amazing daughter, Alejandra, for helping me get back on the podcast air here. I had a bit of an accident and was laid up in the hospital for a few weeks. Alejandra helped me get back home and set up. My beautiful wife is back with me now. Things are going well. We're so super happy that you are with us and part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. And thank you. And most of all, thank you for making the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.